Learning to make great games is hard as hell. Learn with us at unfgames.com to make it easier. If you are learning Unreal Engine 5 and want to learn more about materials, then this video is for you. Did you know that 70% of the visual quality of your game depends on the materials and textures you use? Knowing how to create your own materials will help you to increase the quality of your game environments and scenes. I will take you from an absolute beginner to a person who can do the most important operations with materials inside Unreal Engine 5. We will go through the very basics, like showing you the most common operations and apply those to create your first master material. Then we will learn about material layers, a powerful toolset that not many people use, so you can easily create complex materials and reuse them in different projects. We will learn how to create functions from the most common operations like changing colors, normal maps, slope masking, vertex painting, and adding puddles. By the end of this course, you will be confident to create and modify materials for your environments. The master material used in this course is available to download for free. Link in the description below. So before creating any material, I need to show you what a material is. So what a material is basically a paint you apply to a 3D model, okay? It's just basically that. It's like the color and everything and how it looks. So for example, you have this wall, and if I check the properties, you will see that I have one material here. If you don't see the properties, press F4. It's also in the details panel, and you will see that it's using one material. It's like a paint wall, okay? So one material can be applied to one model. But also, you can have cases like this, for example, this chair, where it's using the metal and the painting. And you will think that it will have two materials, but when I click on this, it actually has one. And the reason is, we can do operations inside the materials that help us to decide where we want to apply the painting in our models. For example, this part can be metal, and this part can be the other painting material, okay? Another thing you can do is to actually apply multiple materials for mesh. For example, here you have two materials. You have the darker one and the brighter one, okay? And I will show you when to use both methods, okay? And another thing that is very useful with materials is that you can have like several instances. If you like this model, I put a link in the description. But basically, this knight has a lot of material instances. Like if I click on this, you will see that I have a lot of this, okay? If I double click on one of those, you will see that I have a parameter window. Let me move this here. And just to show this out, you can change different things, like the roughness, and we will talk more about it in the future. We can change the color, something like this, for example. I don't recommend you to put something like this, but you can basically do any kind of material manipulation within Unreal Engine. And this gives you a very flexible workflow where you can just create multiple meshes that use multiple materials, and you can have a very rich environment. So let's start by creating your first material. So let's create our first material. We need to open the content drawer with Control Spacebar, or you can go to Window and then Content Browser. You can choose one of those here. Either way, you can just right-click here and then create a material. Usually for convention, you will just use M underscore and the name of your material. Let's just call it our material practice, something like that, okay? And then we will just double-click on this. Now, what we have here, it's a window very similar to Blueprints if you have used it before. If not, I will show you what you can do with this. It's basically a graph window. In here, you can see if you rotate with the mouse, with the left mouse click, you will see that you can preview your material, how it looks like. Right now, it looks like black and has no properties because we haven't plugged anything, okay? The left one is the details panel. Okay, this will change depending on which node we are having. But if you don't click on anything or you just click here, you will see the material properties for the overall material properties. And the right side is your outputs. So you have the base color, which is the color of your material, the metallic, which is a value between 0 and 1, which will determine if it's metallic or not, the specular value, the roughness, which is how shiny it can be, the emissive color, okay, and the normal one, and the ambient occlusion. These are the most important ones, okay? So if you right click here, you will pan around. You can scroll up and down, okay, to zoom in and out, okay? And that's basically it, okay? So how you can start creating something, okay? You can either press here, click the palette, and you will see that you have a lot of nodes, okay? And that can be very overwhelming at the beginning. So here you have a search tab, okay? So I will show you which one are the most common ones. Let's create a constant, okay? You can see here that you have constants like 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay? These are vectors, okay? Let's create a constant 1, for example. You can just drag this here, okay? We can go here and drag another one, okay? And do the same here for the third and then the fourth. There you go. Now, there is another way to create, which is using the tab button. With the tab, you can just type here, and you can just type constant, and you can just, with the arrow keys, you can select which node you want. For example, you want this one, and just like that, you can just create any node you want, okay? So, the constant ones are very important. These are the most basic ones that we will use for operations, okay? So what happens if you put this one here? Let's put the constant 1 in the base color. You can basically drag this here and plug this here, and you will see that nothing has happened, okay? But what you can actually do is go here, and you will see that when I click on a node, I will see the parameter here is changed. So I can just type something like, for example, 0.5. And you will see that it has become brighter. Or I can just use the left mouse click to make it brighter. And I can just do something like this, for example. Okay. And I can make it darker. And that's basically what you can do. The constant is a value between 0 and 1. Well, it can be any value, but where 0 is the black value and 1 is the white value. Okay, now if you click on this, you will see that you have 3 values. Okay, so the 3 values here, if you click here this arrow, you will see a bunch of properties here. You will see that you can change individually each value. For example, you can change the red one, you can change the green one, you can change the blue one, and then you can control this. Okay, now there is another way to change the color here, and that is to click here, and here you will be able to change the color here. For example, this one, click OK, and then you will have your blue one, or you can choose another color if you want. Okay, you can also save colors here, drag and drop colors here to save. For example, you want to save this color, you can just put it here, click OK, and now when you change the color, I want to use this, you just click on this one, and this will be saved on all your project. Okay, so this can be very useful. Okay, so this is the most basic way we can create materials. Now here the material is not applied anywhere, so you need to click on apply. Okay, and let me move this window here, and what we will do is go to our map and go here, and let's create a basic shape like a cube. Okay, we can create a cube, press F to focus, and we can just go to the content browser and drag this thing here. And there you go, now we have our material. if I make any change here, for example, I change the color to this one, okay, you will see that here it's still green, and the reason is you haven't applied the changes, okay? So you need to hit apply for any change you do in your material, so then it will load again, and there you will have your new color. So the next thing we're gonna do is to take a look at what else we can do with the material. So let's add more features to our material. What I want to do is to add something in the roughness to change how glossy this material is, okay? Because right now it's very rough, and I want to change the roughness of it. So I can either go tab and type constant, but I will do something different now. I will show you a quicker way to create nodes, and that is by holding the 1, click 2, 3, and 4 to create a constant 1, 2, 3, or 4 vector. That's the way I do it, and I highly recommend you to remember these hotkeys, okay? If you can just put 1, 2, 3, okay? You can just create any node. I will leave a link in the description with a lot of hotkeys, that the most important ones, okay? But for now, I will show you the most important ones as we go, okay? So I will press 1 to create a constant, and I will just plug it in here, the roughness, okay? As you can see, it becomes very glossy, okay? And I can see the reflection of my environment, and that's great. Glossy materials are really cool. So you can change this. As I increase this, if I put a value of 1, it will be the complete opposite. It's completely rough, like very, very rough. Or you can put something like in the middle, 0.5, a little bit glossy, or maybe something like 0.3, something like that. You can just play with the glossiness here, okay? So basically, materials can be very rough. Let me delete this. We don't need this anymore. Materials can be very rough or very glossy, or somewhat in between, okay? So that's what the roughness does. The metallic, on the other hand, I press 1 again. I can just click here. And if I want a surface to be metal, I can just change this to 1. Okay, and now you will see that I have a metal surface. Okay, and if I want like a mirror type of surface, I can decrease the roughness to make it very smooth, and you will see that I have the sphere is very reflective. It's like a metal. If I click apply, you will see that my cube also does the same here. Okay, so this thing, roughness and metallic, it's called the PBR. The PBR stands for physically based rendering, okay? Which is a render based on the physical properties, which is the metalness and the roughness. Now, you can play with these 3 values and have a lot of variations, okay? So you can have like metal, you can have like rock, you can have like plaster, plastic, brick walls, whatever. And all of them will have different properties, okay? You don't need to be exact on the properties. You can just put what you feel like it looks good for you. For example, I can put 0.3 here, and technically this is not physically correct. You cannot, it's not that you cannot, you can have like values between 0 and 1 for the metallic, but it's not physically accurate. What is recommended is either 0 for non-metallic surface or 1 for metallic surfaces, okay? There are some cases that you will want to play in between values, but most of the cases it's either 0 or 1. Whereas roughness, you want to play with this because there are very different values here that you can play from 0 to 1, okay? Now, let's continue and let's see what other common operations we can do in the material to make this material look much more interesting. So let's see the most common operations you can do in materials, and that is, you know, basic math. So here, I can just modify this color by adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. That's the most common operations. I'm sure you have seen them in school. So you can also do it here. So you can right click or press tab and click add. Okay, and you will have your add button. You can also press A if you want. Okay, A is for this. Okay, you can go for multiply. Okay, you can, which is M for multiply. You can press D for divide. Okay, you can just click here, divide. And you can type subtract. Subtract. There you go. Okay. And that one, I'm not saying, I don't remember the hotkey. Remember, I will leave a link in the description with all the hotkeys for this one. Okay. So these are the most common operations. So if you want to add value, add is, take a look at for brightness. Okay. Brightness will come like it will add value. Okay, if I add this here, you will see that everything turns brighter. Okay, and I click here and you will see that I have two inputs here. I have the first one, which is using this color, and I'm using the second one, which is using this number. Okay, I can create one with pressing 1. I can add 0, and if you add 0 to this, then it won't change at all. Okay, let me change this to a color where it's not using any color here. Let's put something like 0.5. Okay, now as I increase this, you will see that it becomes brighter and brighter and brighter. Okay, so I can also go negative here. Okay, and I will make it darker. Okay, until the point where it becomes completely dark. Okay, so this is the add operation. Add and subtract basically do the same. Okay, so if you want to go here, connect these two and connect it here, you can play with a subtract. For example, if you put 0, you won't subtract anything, but if you put something like 0.5, it will turn dark. Okay, so it's basically these two are opposites, and usually you can play with only one of those. Okay, and you can just change this value either negative or positive. Now let's delete this. Now let's just move it here. We don't really want to delete them. Press Alt and click to remove the wires. Okay, let's put the subtract here. I will put all this here so it can be like a little bit organized. Remember, this is for learning purposes. The next one is multiply. So I can multiply this, and multiply, you can think of it as intensity. Okay, so for intensity, it will make it everything look brighter or everything look darker. Okay, so the same with divide, is just that it's doing the opposite. So for example, if I press 1, nothing will change because, as you know, everything multiplied by 1 is just 1. If I put something like 2, I will make it brighter. If I put something like 5, I will make it brighter and brighter. But if I put something like 0.2, for example, I will make it darker. So this is multiply is like an intensity node for this. Okay, and the divide just do the same. I can just go here and connect these two and put the divide here. And if I divide by 1, nothing will change. But if I divide by 1.5, for example, or 2, it will become darker and darker. Okay, and it's basically a little bit different. Okay, I can just put something like 10 and it will become very dark. Okay, and I can just divide by 0.1 and it will become brighter. Okay, so these are the 4 most basic operations, math operations, that you can use. There is another one that is the power node. I will show you that in the future, but for now you can just come here and even combine those. For example, you can add here and you can multiply here. Let's create another one. So for example, you can add something like 0.2 to make it brighter, and then you multiply by 1, nothing will change. But if you multiply by 0.4, it will make it darker, and you put 0.1, you will be even darker, and you can keep combining those until you have the operation you want. Okay, typically I use this add for adding brightness, and then I use the multiply to change the intensity of the color. Okay, so just by doing that, you can do the same here and here to change the roughness and the metallic if you want it. So let's take a look at what else you can do with materials. So what if you want to do something more complex than a solid color? This is where you will need a texture. Okay, so if I go to my content browser, you will see that I have my starter content folder. If you don't have it, you can go to add, then go to add feature content pack, and here you will click on content, click on starter content, and add to project. Okay, I already have it, so I don't need to add it. But if you want to use like some textures and some materials here, you can just go to the texture tab and you will see that I have, textures. Now, let's see what a texture is composed of. Remember that here I had 3 channels, the red, the green, and the blue one. I can also have the 3 channels, also a 4th one here, where I can combine these colors, okay, to create the image that you have here. And I can just click here to isolate each channel. For example, if I want to see the red one looks like this. If I want to see the green one, it looks like this. And if I want to see the blues, it looks like this. And when I combine all of those, I get these colors, the red, the green, and the blue, which is basically what I had here, but a little bit more detail. So what I can do is choose any one of those textures, for example. Okay, let me choose this one. Let's choose the bricks. And let's just drag it here and put it here. Okay, I can also type here texture sample. Okay, and you will see that you have a bunch of options. If you click here, you already have the texture here. And the reason is I have clicked here. I already have selected this. Okay, so if I wanted to select another texture, for example, I want to select this mask, I can go here and just click the arrow here. Okay, and if I want to create a new one, I can just click here. I can drag and drop like I did before, or I can just right click and put texture sample. Okay, and I will have my normal map, okay, which you will see in a second what it does. Let's disconnect this for a moment with Alt. I will just leave it here so it can be a little bit organized. And let's connect this. Okay, let's remove this. We don't really need this. Okay, let's connect the base color here. And you will see that now I have the color information that I have in my texture. If I double click on this, you will see that I have my base color here. Okay, the red, the green, and the blue, each one with different values. You can create a texture like this. Okay, this is a mask. We will take a look at the mask later, but this is a normal map. Okay, so a normal map, when you plug it into the normal channel, you will see that my texture now is having like a little bit of a bump here. And this helps us to add more detail by faking 3D geometry. It's basically a aligning information texture. If I double click on this, you will think that the normal map really doesn't have, you cannot read this information, right? So what you can have actually is The red channel is it's a little bit hard to see because the blue one is choosing here. We can just click on this. There you go. We can click on the blue one just for a moment. Remember, this one needs to be placed on normal map. Okay, we will change it later. The red one, okay, the light is coming from the right. Okay, the light is coming from here. Okay, and this is the information you have. The green one, and that's basically the two information you need, the green and the red. The light is coming from here. Okay, so you have one that comes from X axis from here. It's very easy to when you isolate this, and one comes from the green axis, and the blue one, it's basically let's just call it a Z depth. Okay, we don't really need it, but you know, it's there. Okay, we can control C to change the compression settings from default to normal map. Okay, this will help us to compress the texture as a normal map, and there you go. Okay, so that's basically the textures, how you can manipulate it. Let's see what you can do with this. Okay, so let's look at what is masking. Masking is the ability to use some areas of the textures and manipulate them to have a different result. Now, if you want to put some roughness here, for example, you want to put 0 here, okay, and make everything shiny, you can do that if you want, like a shiny brick. We can put 0.7, right? It's not gonna be very pretty. Okay, so what you can do here is go here, and you will see that you have a strange texture. And when you have something like this, it is better to remove this, so you can take a look at what you're seeing. First is the red channel, and the red channel looks like it's the roughness. Okay, it can be anything you want, actually. It can be used for color variation and a lot of things, but basically it is the roughness. The green channel, it's the ambient occlusion. I've seen this multiple times. I'm sure it's ambient occlusion. How do I know? Basically, you have the contact shadows when things are getting close. Okay, and the blue channel is basically the red one. It's the same. So you really are manipulating two channels here. When you're working with mask, what you can do, you must do, is to change this default value to mask. Okay, and look like nothing has happened, but actually what it actually did was uncheck this sRGB. What this check does is they try to calibrate the colors because each monitor will look different. For example, here, if we take a look at our color texture here, you will see that my colors are like, you know, with sRGB. And the reason is every monitor will have different calibration settings, and you want your texture to look more like the same across multiple monitors. But for a mask texture, this is used under the hood. You don't really need to see it. The monitor won't need to change it. So if you don't click on this, you will have different values for different monitors. And this will be a big trouble because it will change the roughness of your material depending on which computer you use it. You don't want to do that. So make sure to change this to mask or to sRGB off. Okay, that's the first thing. And once you do that, make sure here you also change to mask. Okay, click apply. And now that you have this, you can use the red channel, which was my roughness, and put it here. And you can use the green channel and put it here. There you go. Now we have all our three textures working correctly. And if I can take a look at this, you have a really nice texture that you have applied. And you can apply this texture to anywhere. For example, I can come back here. I can grab my material and put it here. And there you go. Now I have my material here. Awesome. Okay, so next thing we will do is to see ways we can modify this texture using some of the most common basic operations here. Okay, so we have our brick material, and let's do some modification to this. Sometimes you want to change the color and things like that. So let's see what we can do with this. Let me close this by using the middle mouse button, go here to the material, and like usual, we're going to use the multiply node. Okay, so let's just hit M for multiply, and here you can just press 3 to add a color, and let's just put something like red, for example, or orange. Let's multiply this two, put it here. Let's see what happens. Now everything turned orange. Okay, so how can you change this? There are several ways we can do that, but what I want to show you is the concept of lerping. So if I open up this texture here, you will see that I have an alpha channel. How do I know this? Because you can see a checkerboard here. Okay, so if I click this, I disable the rest of the channels, and I will have something like this. This is my alpha channel. Okay, so what I will do is to use this mask to tell the material only apply orange in the white or the black areas. So let's do that. How can we do this? Well, in order to do this, we need to a lerp node. And we do this by linear interpolate. Okay, so you can also press L if you want to have it. Okay, let me delete this. Now, the alpha is the mask that you will have here. Okay, and remember that this alpha here has a white value and a black value. The white value will be on the B, okay, and the black value will be on the A. Okay, so let's just say I want the yellow color on the white values. I can just come here. The original color will be plugged into A, the orange color will plug into B, and then I will plug this into the base color. Right, so now that I have this, I have my bricks are getting orange here. Awesome. Let's apply this to take a look at how it looks in our level, and there you go. Now we have applied an orange brick to our texture. Awesome. So what else can we do? Well, we do have something here. Remember our mask, we have a roughness. Okay, what we can do is to increase or decrease the power of these values here, and we're doing that by creating a power node, which is our next math operation I want to show you. Okay, so let's delete this. We don't really need this for now. What I want to do is to drag this and type power. Okay, now this will be very simple. Let me put this to 1 first, and if you want to take a look at how this looks like, you can just right click on this and start previewing node. Okay, so this is what the texture looks like. Let's put something like this. This is what the texture looks like when it's only the power of 1. If we put 2, you will see that the darker values become darker and the whiter values become whiter. Let's put 3. Let's put something like 5. Let's put something like 10, 15, 50. Okay, so if you do like 50, that's a lot of contrast. If you put 20, if you put maybe 15, then you have like a mask here you can use. Okay, now this thing here, what you can do is actually use one of this mask to paint the bricks. And this is where we will introduce the 1- node, because I want the opposite of this mask. So what I can do, actually the power is just type power here. I'm not sure if I press P or something like this, but you just type 1-, Okay, and if I connect this, you won't see any change because I'm previewing this node. But as I right click, start previewing node, you will see that I have something like this. Okay, now let's change the contrast. Let's put something like 10 or 5 or 2. Something like this. Okay, or maybe let's just keep it at 10. And now that you have this, you actually create the same mask you had here. So even if you don't have this, what you can do is use this one to create a mask. You can do this by putting like 15 or something, or 30 or 50, something like this. And you can just plug this here. Okay, let's take a look. And now you can see that my bricks, I have white paint in the bottom and one white paint in the top. Okay, I can also plug this here and it will be the opposite because I'm not using the 1-. I will have the paint in the other side. Okay, so you can manipulate texture by using the power node. It's a very interesting node that you can use. Let's just leave this one here. We don't really need to use the power node for now. And what we can do is to actually change the color of this one by using another layer. By pressing L, I can just plug this into the A, and the B will be another color. Okay, so let's move this out. Okay, we don't really need this anymore. Let me Control C and Control V this one. Okay, and I will put something like blue. And I will multiply this here. And now that I have this, what I can do is to plug this here, and the alpha will be this one, but it will be 1-. If I take a look at this alpha, you will see that I have it like this. Okay, so let's just take a look at how it looks like. Let's just put it here, and let's see how our brick looks like now. Awesome. Now we have control over the blue side of the bricks and the orange side of the bricks, and we can control them. By using Lerps, you can basically create any kind of variation you want. Okay, so now that we have the color working, let's just plug this in because I want to show you how it looks with the normal map only. So if you check the normal map, you will see that we have 2 channels like we saw before. 3 actually. The blue one is in the Z-axis, the red one in the X, and the Y-axis is in the green channel. So if you want to increase the normal intensity, you need to isolate these channels. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to use the component mask. Okay, let's press tab, component mask. And when you click here, you can just drag this out and you will choose which channels you're going to use. Right click, start previewing node, and you will see that you have your normal map here. Okay, you have the red and the green channel. What you can do is increase the intensity of this by multiplying, by pressing M. Remember, M multiply with M, or just type multiply, and then just press 1 to create a constant, and then just plug this here. Let's just put 1 and then right click and preview node. Okay, nothing has changed, but as I increase this, for example, something like 5, you will see that it's much more intense. Okay, it's like 1, 5, 1, 5. There you go. So what we want to do is we cannot just plug this in because the normal map needs the 3 channels. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you to the append nodes. So let's go here and type append. And what this will do is combine 2 vectors. Here you have the first 2 channels, and then we just need the 3rd channel here. There you go. And just like that, we can start previewing this node, and now we have our normal map. If I increase the intensity of this, you will see that also the normal map increase the intensity. And the same way, I can just put this to 0, and you will see that I have basically no normal map. Okay, so I can just plug this here, okay, and stop previewing the node, and it will be very evident when you see that I can just put something like 5. You will see that the normal detail, it's much more intense than before. You can see it here, like it's very, very intense. I can even exaggerate this a little bit. Let me put something like 10, apply, and you will see here that it's very, very intense. Okay, sometimes you want to have this, sometimes you don't, but it's a really nice feature to be able to control the normal map based on what you would like your mesh to look like. Okay, so with the knowledge we have now, let's start creating our master material. I'm going to delete these nodes because honestly, I don't feel all the texture will have an alpha channel, and I want to make it as modular as possible. So I will just delete all this. Okay, I will have my clean base color, and a basic setup I like to use is the add for brightness to control the brightness of the texture. I can just plug this in here. Okay, and you see that by default 1 it's too much, so I will change this by pressing 1. I will create a constant. You can just remember constant here. You can create different constants. Okay, and what I will do is to create a material instance, so you can take a look at how it's gonna look. Okay, so let's apply this and save, and let's go to the content browser here. Let's remove this filter. There you go. And to create a material instance is very simple. You just need to right click and then create material instance. You can type it mi and then, I don't know, brick, something like that. Okay, and let's just drag this here. Okay, and we can duplicate this one too and put the master one here so we can compare the two. So what we can do is to double click on this, and you will see that I have a bunch of parameters. It's a little bit different than material instance. And why I don't see any parameter is because I haven't exposed any. Inside here, I can convert any kind of node into a parameter. Okay, so for example, this one, I can just right click and then convert to parameter. And this will be, for example, my brightness. Okay, let's apply. And now I have my brightness here. So what I can do is to go here to the check if I want to modify it. And I can just change the brightness like this. Pretty cool. And it will also change the instance that I have here. Okay, let's put a couple of other useful nodes here. What I want to add is a multiply. Okay, and I can add another constant, pressing 1, and then right click, convert to parameter, and I will call this multiply. Sorry, not multiply, we will call this intensity. Okay, then rename this to 1 by default. Okay, otherwise it will be 0. And if you want to connect here, remember you can always right click here and connect to base color or any other kind of output. Okay, let's just apply and see what this node does. We can change the intensity here. We can just change this to a cube here. There you go. We can change the intensity something like this, and it will become darker or brighter. Okay, 1 is the default, so we will just leave it like that. Another node that is very useful is the desaturate. Let's just put a desaturation. There you go. Now, desaturation will actually, you know, change. I will put a value here of 0. Okay, it will make everything dark, black and white. Sorry, if I put an unlit mode. Okay, if I put 1, it will be desaturated. If I put 0, it will have a little bit more color. So the less the value, the more color I have. So I have like -10. I have a lot of color. So what I will do is to put a 1 minus to make it a little bit more convenient. Okay, and I will just leave it like that. Now this will work as saturation, and I forgot I need to convert this to a parameter. We will call this saturation. There you go. Hit apply. And now we go here. And if we want to increase the color, we can just go to saturation and increase it, like something like 10, for example, or 5. And you will see that I have a little bit of more color here. You can see it here even easier, where my color is being more saturated in the areas. Basically, the red becomes more red, the blue becomes bluer, and the green becomes greener. Okay, so now that I have this, there is a problem. I don't really want my values to increase over 1. So what I need to do is put a clamp node. So just like this, I will make sure that my values stay within 0 and 1. So I don't have any crazy value here. Okay, and I can just go to my material instance. Let's just put this as a sphere, change the brightness, put something like 0. And now this one looks a little bit better. I can change the saturation to 2. Okay, looks a little bit different. Okay, great. So let's continue to work on this. So as we continue to work on our texture, what we need to make sure is to comment on things. So we can just come here, and with C, when you press C, you will create a comment frame, and you can just put a base color, something like that. And with that, you know that this area is used for base color. You can also change the color of this one if you want. I will just leave it like that. But if you have many, some colors can help you to organize things a little bit. Okay. The next thing, I want to change the roughness, and it will be very simple. I can just hit M for multiply, go here, and then with 1, I can create a constant, and I can change this to roughness intensity, something like this. And I can just put it here. And I can create another clamp node and connect this to the roughness here. Awesome. So now my roughness, it's working here. Okay, it's very rough. You can see it's it's very glossy, not rough. As I increase the value, something like 0.5 or 1 or 2, it becomes less and less glossy. So a value of 1 will be like the default. If you want to increase it, you can just put something like crazy values like -1 or 0 or 1 or 0.5, depending on what you want. Okay, so let's continue. Our normal map will have a instance 2. Let's convert this to a normal intensity, something like this. And just like that, we can just apply this. And let's put the default value of this one to 1, because we don't really want to have default values that are like weird. You can just go here to the material instance, and we can change the normal intensity to 2, to 5, to 10, to whatever you want. Okay, something like that, for example. Awesome. So we can just put 2, for example. And now our normal map is stronger. So now we have a small master material. We can just come here and convert this into my roughness. And then this one, remember with C, you can comment like normal map. Okay, so now that we can do, what we can do is to change the texture density. Okay, so let's do that now. So a very important feature to have when you are creating materials is to be able to change the UVs. So let's say you want like you have this brick and you want to scale it. Okay, now your bricks are very big compared to what the size of the wall is. So in that case, you may want to have different textile density for this object here. If it's too small, maybe it's right, but you want to have control over how many bricks you have in your model. So in order to do that, I'm going to introduce you to the texture coordinates. So here you will see that the texture sample is using UVs here. So what we can do is to type texture coordinates. Okay. And just like that, we can just connect this one here. And now we can change the UVs. For example, let's right click and start previewing this node. We can change the U tiling to 2. Okay. And you can see that is repeating more times in the x-axis. Something like that. And you can also put 3 here. And you will have more bricks. And you can go lower, like 0.1, 0.1. And you have like super big bricks here. Like maybe 0.3. And now your bricks will become bigger. So what you want to do is to basically change the how many bricks you can have, and we're gonna do that by using a multiply node. Just by leaving this at 1, we can just use the multiply and then go here to that create a constant with 1, convert to parameter, and we will call this tiling. By default it will be 1, and we will plug this one here, and then we will plug the multiply here and do the same here for this one and the same for this one. There you go. And now that we have this, we can just apply, and we can go to our material instance here, and we can change the tiling here, like to have more or less. Let's move the window. Let's close this one. And you can see that my master material, which doesn't have the parameters, is this original. And this one, you can change the tiling to make it small or bigger. You can just do this, scroll down or up, depending on what you want, and you will have different results. Okay, let's just leave it like 2, for example. Okay, now you see that you have a lot of control over like the color, the roughness, the normal map. Just by doing this simple setup, you can have a lot of variation. You don't need to do anything complicated. So what we will do is to add some other manipulations we can have for the texture coordinates. So another thing you can do to change the texture coordinates is to pan them. You can move them around like in X or Y, and we can do that by pressing the add one. Remember, with A you can create a node or just type add, and you can just come here, okay, and just create another constant here, and you can just let's just put a tiling position, something like this, and you can just add this one here, and then control here to move all these ones here. And now you will see that I can move this around. So let's come back here. Let's go to our material instance and let's see what's happening. So as I increase the tiling position, everything is moving like in this direction, you know, like diagonal, either here or here. That's because I'm moving the X value and the Y value at the same time. Okay, so I need to isolate this. So how I'm gonna do this is by using the component mask. I can do the same trick I did with the normal map. I can create a component mask. I can put here the red. I can Control C and Control V, and I can press green here and connect this one. And then I can put the add here, and I can create a tiling. I can Control C and Control V. This will be tiling X, and by default will be 0. We put it here, okay, and then we will put another add here, and let's Control C and Control V, and this will be my tiling Y, and we will be 0 too, and let's just put it here, okay. Now I'm controlling the X and the Y axis separately, so what I can do to combine those is just put the append vector, and I can just connect these two, and with Control I can just drag this here and connect this one here. I don't really need this anymore, so let's take a look at what's going on here. Let's go and let's go to our material instance here, and let's see what the add is doing. Let's change the tiling to 1. So if I increase the X, you will see that it's moving. And I can also increase the tiling. I increase the value and I remove. Let me put this one to 1. As I increase or decrease, you can see that I'm panning around the Y-axis. So in this case, like for example, you don't want your brick to end like this, you can just move it a little bit, and you can just leave it like that, and now your brick ends up nicely. So really depends on what you want to do. You can move it around if you want. It's a useful feature to have. I will just leave it at 0 for now, but it's really nice to have it. So let's move this here, okay, and let's comment here on this. Will be my tiling setup. This will be my simple tiling setup. There you go. And now that you have this, you have control over the tiling, you have control over the color, and you have control over the roughness and normal map. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to add another tint for my base color. Okay, so one thing we will do before finishing up our master material is to put a color here. So what I can do is to multiply this by pressing M and then click 3. I will show you another option. You can either click 3 and right click and convert to parameter, or you can press V and click, and with this you will create another parameter. Okay, so this will be, for example, my tint, and we will just leave it at 1. Okay, and just like that we can just put it here and then just put it in the clamp, and there you go. Now our master material, it's pretty much done. Okay, let's take a look at what happens when we change the tint here. We can just move it around like this. We can change the color a little bit. We can change the saturation. Where is the saturation? There you go. Saturation, you can put something like 5 or 0 or -10 if you want it to be a little bit different. You can change the roughness. Okay, you can change the tiling to 2 or 1 or whatever. You can move the tiling. You can do a lot of things. So the next thing we will do is to show you how you can organize these parameters, because now we have a lot, and as you can see, I'm having a little bit of a hard time finding what I want to change in the material. So if you want to organize this a little better, there is another way we can use in the materials. We can select here one of my properties, and here I can select a group. For example, I can change, like, say, color, something like this. And now I can just go here and I can just select the color here, and I can select all of those, all the parameters I want, and select the color group. Okay, then I can change this to my roughness intensity. For example, this can be my roughness group. Okay, for now we only have one, but it's okay. And here you can have the normal intensity, so we can change this to normal. Okay, great. So now that we have this, we can also put this in a group and call it tiling. And we can apply. And what we can do here now is now we have the color here, the normal intensity, the roughness, and the tiling, everything nicely organized. There is one more thing I want to do, and let me stop previewing this node. What I want to do is to convert this to a parameter. So when I change the texture, I can just put anything I want. So let me right click here and convert to parameter. And this will be my base color. Okay. I can do the same here. This will be my mask. And this will be right click, convert to parameter. This will be my normal. So now I can just click on all this and I can just put as a group like textures, something like this. I can click apply and now you will see that I have my textures here. So now if I want another material, I can just go back to my content browser, look for any texture here, for example, like this brick, and I can just plug this here. Plug this brick here, and then this mask here, and then this normal here. There you go. And now we have another type of brick. And we still have all the things that we had in our previous material. We can change the brightness, make it darker or brighter, change the intensity to make everything bright or dark, the saturation, the tint, we can change the tint, can make it dark too, something like this. We can change the tiling, the normal intensity, we can put it really intense or really not intense, depending on what you want. Can put something like 2. The roughness intensity, we can put something like 1 or 1.5, something like this. And the tiling, we can increase the tiling or decrease it or move it around. There are a lot of things we can do with this material. So as you can see, now we have our master material. Now, it's quite tedious to create these things. It takes some time. So what we're gonna learn now is how we can create functions so we can use them in the future. If we want to organize a little bit better, we can create functions to reuse what we already done and use it in other materials if we wanted to do it again. So let's start simple with the normal map. Okay, so how can we convert this into a function? So the first thing is we need to create a material. Let's save everything. We need to create a material, and here you will create, instead of a material, you will create a material function. Okay, and we will call this mf normal intensity, something like this. Okay, so let's save everything and double click on this, and you will see that it's almost the same as the material graph, except here it says material function and the output, it's a little bit different. So what we can do is to Control C and Control V this one. Okay, and what we will do actually is to change this to an input. Okay, so the input will be the normal, of course, and the normal intensity. So how do we put this? We can create an input here. We can right click and search for input, and we will put a function input. By default, this one is using a value of vector 3, which is basically this one. Okay, so we will call this our normal map. Okay, and what we will do, as you can see, we also need information for the blue channel. Okay, so what we can do here is to drag this and put a break float 3 components. Okay, so just by doing this, we are breaking all the components. So what we will do is to put a mask here. Okay, let's imagine this is our normal, and here in the blue channel, we will put it here. Now we don't really need this, so we will delete. Okay, now this is our normal map, and our normal intensity will also be an input. So we will create a function input, but this time we're going to convert this into a scalar parameter. Okay, and now this will be my normal intensity. And just like this, I can just move this around. I can delete this if I want, and then just put it here. Okay, and I can have the preview value as default, but let's see later how it looks like. Okay, let's connect this one here, and let's change the name for new normal map, something like that. Okay, let's hit apply, and let's try to find it. If we right click, we can put normal intensity. You won't be able to find it, and the reason is we haven't exposed to the library. You can just drag this here and it will work. Okay, but if you want it to, you don't really want to use the content browser, you can just come here, and if you click anywhere in the graph in your function, you can just click on expose to library. Okay, you can put a description to like changes normal intensity, something like that, and that's it. Okay, you can put a category if you want, just leave it like that. Okay, and now we can just come here and press tab and normal intensity, and there you go. That's our normal intensity. Now what we can do is replace this. We can just connect this one here and the normal intensity here. Now if we try to just connect this one here, we will have an error because we haven't connected all the inputs. And some inputs you don't really want it to be like mandatory, such as the intensity. You don't really want to have a value for that all the time. So what you can do is use the preview value as default. And we can put the preview value to 1, something like this. Or we can create a scalar pressing 1 and just press 1 here. Okay, and just by doing that, if we click apply, now we don't have the error. Okay, we don't really need this anymore. Okay, and now what we can do is to put the normal intensity here. Now you see that the order of these inputs changes. That's because here in the input you will have a sort priority. For example, this one, if we put 1 and this one is 0 by default, then they will have a different order. The normal map will be in the bottom, following by the normal intensity in the top because it has a lower value. So great, now that we have this, everything should work as normally. So if we come back here, let's open up our material instance and let's just change the normal intensity to something like 10. And as you can see, it's working just all right. You can just put 1, 2, 3, and everything works just fine, just like before. But now the difference is that we're having everything a little bit more organized. And the beauty of this is that you can save these functions and you can use them in future projects, so you don't have to redo them again. So I'm going to create a material function for my tiling. Okay, so I'm gonna Control C this, and I'm going to right click here, materials, go to material function and put mf simple tiling, something like that. Okay, just put it here and then bam, there you go. So what we want to change here, it's basically, first, this is a vector2, so I want to put a function input here, and we will put this as vector2. Okay, and we will just put it here. Okay, or we can just leave the texture coordinate. Actually, we don't really need to change this. Let's click yes. We don't really need to change the texture coordinate. We only need to change the function, the input here in the tiling. So let's just go input here, and this will be my tiling scale. Okay, so then we can have the scalar parameter here, and by default we can use the default value here. Let's convert to constant here, so we don't have a parameter there, otherwise it will be duplicated. So let's hit apply. Okay, now we need some inputs for this, so Control C this one, Control V, and by default it will be 0. That's okay. So we will call this yeah, tiling X. Let's just call it tiling X, and also we will put a tiling Y. Tile pan X. Better, much better. And then tile pan Y. Okay, so now that we have this, we can just go here, delete this one too, and there you go. Now we have our tiling. Perfect. Now you can see our tiling is working. Let's put a name to this. The output will be I don't know, symbol tiling chords, something like that. And the description, it's add simple tiling manipulation to the textures. Okay, expose to library and apply. And now we can change this. We can just put tiling simple, and there you go. So now we have everything here. We don't need all of this, so we can just put the tiling here, can put the tiling X and the tiling Y, and what you can do is to delete everything. But before that, let's use Control here and connect this one, and just delete this one, delete, 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 and just put it like this. And just like that, we have made our tiling much more compact. And we don't actually need to change this because the default values are already these ones, but because we're using it on our material instance, we want to have them. So just by doing that, we can just hit apply, and then everything should work fine. Let's put the material instance here, and let's look for the tiling, and let's put the tiling to 1, to 2, to 3, and the tiling in X, they move, and in Y, they also move. So just by doing this, we have created our simple tiling. Okay, so let's do the last material function. This time will be for the base color. So we're gonna copy this. We're gonna go to our content browser. Let's save everything in case you lose it. Then go to materials, then go to material function, and let's just call it MF albedo tint, something like that. Okay, double click on this, and the result will be like tint albedo color. Okay, then we will, let's put the description later, we don't really need it. Expose to library as always, and then just paste this. Awesome. So we have a bunch of parameters we need to use. So let's go to function input, and as vector tree, as always, we will just plug this one here. We don't really need to put this one, and this will be my albedo texture. Okay, this one won't be optional. Okay, then you have the brightness and intensity and the saturation. So let's just put this input, rename this to brightness. Okay, and let's just put the preview value here. We don't want it to be mandatory. Okay, let's just Control C, Control B, intensity, and the intensity will be 1 by default. Okay, so let's Control V again, and this time will be the saturation, and we will put it here. Let's delete this, and the last one will be our tint color. Okay, and we will put it here. And the preview value, let's just put it white, okay? And we will put it here, and this one will be optional. The only one that is not optional, you know, it's the albedo texture. Other than that, we are good to go. So we can just put this one here, apply. And let's go to our material and let's just type albedo tint. Right, well, albedo is just another name for this. The albedo texture is here, it's okay. Can just plug this here. Brightness will go here. Intensity will go here. Saturation will go here, and the tint color will go here. And this one will be connected to the base color. Now we can just delete all of this. We don't really need it. Awesome. Let's just put it here. Okay, it's something like this. A little bit organized, but anyway, that's it. So now we have our color. This one really doesn't, I don't feel like this one requires a function. It's very simple. So we will just leave it like that. And I think that's it for now. Perfect. So let's take a look at our material instance to see if everything works fine. Let's go for the color. The brightness works okay. The intensity works okay. And the saturation still works okay. Awesome. So now that we have this, we have a nice material, master material. We can control the brightness, the tint, the normal intensity, roughness. We can change the textures. We can change the tiling. Awesome. So let's continue to do more complex stuff, okay? Okay, so now that we have our master material, there is a new concept I want to teach you, that is material layers. So let's go to the content browser. And here we will create something new, but let's first organize this a little bit. Let's put our functions here, and we will put it like this tree. We will put it here. Let's move it. Okay. And yeah, that's it for now. Now what we will create, it's another one. It's a material. You will see that you have material layer and material layer blend. So let's create a material layer, okay? And we will call it ML rock, something like that, or surface master, something like that, okay? So let's open it. So here the material layer looks like a function, but it's a little bit different. So you can think of this as layers in Photoshop, you know, where you will, are basically different materials you can use. For example, if you go to Quixel Bridge, you can go to add Quixel content. Here you will see a bunch of materials. You can have like rock and grass and a lot of things here. So you can think of this material as one of those. So the way we are going to create them is by creating the node make material attributes. And here you can put anything really. So let's create a vector parameter by holding V. Okay, you can also go here to the constant tree and then right click, convert to parameter. Okay, let's just delete this one and let's just call it color. And let's just put something like orange and put it here and connect this one. Okay, so this layer will be our master. Okay, so between these, what will happen here is that you will have childs of this one. Like for example, this will be my rock, this will be my grass, this will be my snow, something like that. Okay, and they all will use the logic here. Okay, so how are we gonna do this is we're going to create an instance of this. So we will right click and create layer instance. And if we put, let's say, ML rock I don't know, 0, 1. Okay, so let's double click on this, and you will see that I have another tab here, but here in the details panel, you will be able to change the color. Okay, let's create another one. Let's duplicate this one, and let's call it ML Rock 02. And the Rock 02 is going to have a different color. It's gonna have the green one. Awesome. Okay, so let's apply this material. If you just drag this here, you won't be able to put it because the material layer itself cannot do anything. So we need to create a master material. And we're gonna create another material here called m_surface master. Something like that. Okay, so we will come here. And here, this is the material interface we're familiar with. We will go here and type layer material. And you will find material attribute layers. If you click on this, you will find that you have like this node. This node essentially will have all the materials here, like rock, grass, snow, whatever you want. Okay, so how do you connect this? Because you cannot connect this just like this. There are a couple of options. I will show you both of them. The first one is you need to break material attributes. Okay, and once you do that, you just connect this one like this, and so on, until you connect all of those. There is another way, which is simple. You can just go here, click here in the material, and then go here to use material attributes. And when you do this, you will see that the output here has collapsed into only one node that is material attributes. This kind of input only receive a material, which happens to be this one too. Okay, so if we connect these two, we will be able to have our material. Let's apply. And wait for it, and then go to the content browser, and let's just call this material instance rock 01, something like this. And let's duplicate this one. Okay, so let's come here and just drag this here. Awesome. So now we have our material. The problem is why it looks black, because we haven't assigned which material we want to use here. Here, in the default layers, we can specify which layer we want. In my case, I can just choose one of these if I want. Okay, but I can also do that here. Let's go to my material instance. Let's just close this one. We don't really need it that right now. And what we can do, you see that we have the details panel, but also now we have a layer parameters tab. If we go here, you will see that I have a layer stack. Okay, so the background will be my, for example, rock 1. Okay, this will be my rock 1. And my rock 2, which is a green color, I can also put it there. So now you will see that my rock 1, I can see the color of this one. Okay, let me put this one here. Okay, I can create a new layer. Okay, and I can select the material rock 02. And now you can see that I can only see my material here. Now, the problem is I don't have any way to blend these two together. Okay, this is where the blend asset comes into place. Okay, and we're gonna create that next, because we need to tell, if we toggle the visibility here, you will see that we have the orange one, and this one will be on top of it. But because it doesn't have any mask, it will cover all the surface of our 3D model using this material. So we're going to create a blend asset now. So let's create our first blend asset. I'm going to close this. Okay, for now I will close these material layers, and I will just leave this one here, maybe close it for now too. Okay, So let's go to the content browser, and here we will right click, go to materials, and then go to material layer blend. Okay, and we will call it MLB, I don't know, Grunge, something like that. Okay, so let's just double click on this, and you will see that now you have a material layer blend. And what it's doing here, it's blending between two materials, which will be the ones we have here, okay? And it will be based on an alpha. So how can I control this alpha? First, we just need to ignore this, okay? We will only work with the alpha. We can just put a constant by pressing 1 and right click, convert to parameter, and we will call this alpha. Let's put this one here, apply, okay? And now we will go to our material instance here. And what we will do is go to our layer parameters. And now here we will put the one we create, which is our MLB Grunge. If we click on this one, you will see that now I see the orange one. And why is that? It's because the alpha value is 0, okay? If I put the alpha value on 1, I can have 100% the layer 1. And I can do the same by decreasing this, and I will lerp between these two. Okay, so what this gives us is a tremendous amount of flexibility to blend between these two. And instead of just using one constant, we can use textures to decide where we want to use this alpha. So we're going to do that next. So if we want to use some textures, we can use bridge to grab some texture from there. We can go to content browser, add Quixel content, and if you go here to the home tab, you can go to imperfections, and you can look for, like, for example, Grunge. You can have like a lot of textures you can use to blend your assets. Okay, for example, we can use this one. Maybe we can just download, and you can choose the quality. For me, I will just choose the medium one. Okay, you can choose any texture you want and it will work just fine. So we're going to click add, and once you do that, it will be here, my Grunge. This will be my Grunge texture. Let's double click on this and let's see what it is. It's a mask, just like we saw it before, so we can have the accurate values, and it's only using the green channel. Okay, let's keep that in mind. So how we can use this texture is very easy. We can just go here and grab this one here. We can convert this to a parameter called Grunge texture. Okay, and we can just plug this in. Delete this one, click apply, and let's see how it looks like. Now this one looks really funny because it's neither one of those. So let's open our material here. Okay, and here you will see that I'm using my Grunge, and it's having a little bit of this and a little bit of the background. So what we can do is increase the contrast, and I will do that by using a node called cheap contrast. I can just come here, called cheap contrast. Okay, and just by doing that, I can just connect this one here, and I create a constant by holding 1 and right click, convert to parameter, and call it just contrast. Okay, you can just put it on 1 for now, click apply, and let's see how it looks like now. So it looks a little bit better, right? So if we take a look at this, we can increase the contrast by putting like 2 or 5. Maybe something like 5, it's good enough. Okay, that's great. So what else we can do? Well, we can change the texture. So because we put this as a parameter, we can browse through bridge and find anything. For example, this mud stain we can add, and here we can go to our material, okay, and then just change the texture here. And just by doing that, we will have another mask. That's awesome. Great. What else we can do? Well, we can change the UVs. And what we can do is like press U to get the texture coordinate, or you can just type texture coordinate here. You can multiply it and blah, blah, blah. But we can do better. What we can do is to go to our material functions here and grab the simple tiling we create before. And we can just use this. And of course, we can use all of this. In my case, I will use the tiling scale only. I will press 1, convert to a parameter. I will call it tiling scale. Put it on 1 by default. And put it here. Let's apply. And nothing should have changed here. But now I can just decrease the tiling to have something more interesting. For example, I can decrease it to make it bigger, and now this one will make more sense. And now I can increase the contrast, something like 10 or maybe 50, and now I will have something like this, very contrasty. Or I can just go back to 10, for example. Okay, and if I don't like this one, I can just go back to the texture I had before, like this one, and I can just change this. Okay, and just like that, we can create different textures. Okay, now let's try to have a little bit more control over my texture. So what I will do is to grab one of these meshes, this asset, sorry, and we will create a channel parameter for that. Okay, so let's do that next. So there is another way we can control our texture, and that is by creating a channel mask. If we go to our bridge, we can browse here and find any texture we like. For example, I find that this damaged concrete floor is really interesting, so I will just add this one. Okay, and let's just find it here. And let's take a look. It has different channels, like the red one, the green one, looks pretty much the same, and the blue one. Okay, so with that in mind, we can just create a different channel parameter for each one of those. And we're going to do that by going here to the Grunge map. And instead of selecting this one, we're going to grab this and create a channel parameter. Okay, and by doing that, we can just go here and type, let's just say Grunge channel. And by default, it can be the red one. So let's just grab this one here. Okay, let's apply. And now we will lose the blend we have. But if we go here, we can also use this mask to have like different results. Okay, we can have the ambient occlusion, we can have the height. Let's grab the height, for example. So we're going here and we will just use this one. And looks like nothing has happened. Okay, and the reason is we haven't put the channel here. So what we can do is to put, for example, the blue one. And now you see that it's much more interesting. We can change the contrast to maybe 5. Okay, and now if you take a look at this, this is much more interesting compared to what we had before. You can even put something like 10 and the tiling scale something like 0.5. And just like that, we can have like a nice variation for our two colors. Okay, so if you don't like this one, for example, you can change this to a green one. Okay, or a red one. It will give you just different results. For me, I find that the blue one is the best. So it's just a matter of trying to find something that works for you. Okay, so with that, we're gonna fix these bright colors and let's create a master material when we can use other Megascan surfaces so we can blend them together using this method. Right, so it's time to create a real material layer, and we will use the master material we created before so that we can use this one, material practice. We will use this to modify the layer. So How are we gonna do this? It's very simple. We're just gonna copy this. Let's just select this, go to content browser, and here I will go to my ML surface master, okay? And here I will just delete this, and I will copy paste this one with Control V, and I'm almost there with this. So what I need to do is to grab some texture from Quixel Bridge, okay? For me, I grab like this one, and this one. I already put the add button. So let's try to find the rock cliff first, like for example this one. And let's take a look at this one. Okay, let's take a look at the mask first. First, this one is the ambient occlusion. Okay, that's one thing. We need to change this. The green one is the roughness. Okay, and the blue one is the height. Okay, so what we will do is to basically change a little bit our master material. Okay, so let's close this one and let's open the emerald surface, this one, my material layer. Okay, the base color will be the same. Okay, what we will do here is basically grab this. Let's just close this so that we won't get confused. Okay, we only have this. So let's get the base color here and we will plug it in here. That's the base color. Let's go back to the roughness, and this time we're going to use this one. Let's put the roughness here. This is the mask, okay? And this one is the normal map, so we're going to put the normal map here. There you go. So what we need to do, the normal map is just like we want it. Nothing changes here. The ambient occlusion, however, will come from the red channel here. So we will put the ambient occlusion here. And here, the green channel will be here in the multiply. Okay, so the green channel is the roughness. So we will put the roughness here. And that's pretty much it. Let's just call this mask. Okay, and you can actually change this, put a description here, like let's just put red is the ambient occlusion, green is the roughness, and blue is the height. And you will have something like this so that you can remember which channel is used for what. Okay, so just like that, I think we're pretty much ready. So let's apply this. Okay, and for the first function here, it's my rock here. Okay, I already have it here, so it's perfect. Okay, so I don't really need to change the textures. However, for the rock number 2, I will change the textures for something different. Okay, so I will go to my content browser and let's just find something quite different. For example, this lava texture. We can go here and select one by one. Okay, let's go here to the normal map and then use the mask here. Okay, and just put it here, and there you go. Now you have your lava texture. Okay, let's save this and save the rock. And notice what will happen here is that I can have the textures here. This is wonderful. Okay, so what I will do now is to use this material to put it in a 3D asset. And how I will do this is that I go to my bridge and I already have an asset here that I download, this massive tongue cliff. I download the nanite version and click add. Okay, then it will appear here. So this material, this mesh comes with a material. Okay, let's drag it here. Okay, let's just drag it to the world. It's quite a big asset. Okay, awesome. So now what we will do is to duplicate this one, and we will put the material we create, this one here. So let's go here to our rock and let's put it here. Let's see, let's prepare the shaders a little bit. Awesome. So we just need a little bit of tweaking and we will do that next. So to make this texture better, we just need to change some parameters here. So we can either change this in the instance or we can change it in the master material. So for example, if we change this layer and let's change the brightness a little bit. So for example, let's make it a little bit darker and save it. You will see that it's actually changing everything. We can change the saturation, something like -1 or 0, 0.2 or 0.4. Okay, save it, and you will see that it actually changed everything. We can also change like the tiling here. Can change light tiling for 5, for example. Save it, and you will see that everything starts to change only using one material. Okay, so we can do the same for the second material here. We can just go here, and the brightness, we can make it a little bit brighter. Save it. Okay, let's go to unlit mode to check what else we can do. We can increase the saturation a little bit, maybe 2 or 3. Save this. That looks much better. And increase the normal intensity. We can put something like 2 or 5 to, if you really want to make it like look really stand out. Or you can change the tiling here. Also, let's put something like 5. Awesome. The next thing we can do is to come back here to our rock, and instead we can change some parameters here also if we want it. For example, in the layer asset, we could change the normal intensity to 0 if we don't want any normal intensity, or we can put something like 5 or 1, or we can change the tiling too. For example, by default it's 5, and we can put 10 if we want. But note, keep in mind that if you change from here, if you change the master, it won't be updated because this one is already being changed. So what we want to do is to change the grunge texture. We can put something like 0.2. Okay, and with this you can take a look at how this texture is working here. Okay, let's take a look here, and let's take a look at our rock. Let's change the light with Control L. Awesome. Now we have this texture here that is 8K, and now we have this texture that is 2K, but it's being repeated. It looks fairly nice actually. Okay, so what I want to do now is to show you more techniques that you can add on top of this master material so you can have more variations. So let's add more functionality to our master material. What I want to do is to add a snow on top, and I want it to be automatic. So what I will do is go to bridge and look for some textures here. For example, this mossy ground. Okay, I can add it. I can add moss, and I can also find something like this windstep snow or something like that. Okay, I think I already have some snow here. So let me take a look. Grunge, rock cliff, there you go, that's the snow. So what I will do is basically create another material layer. I will just go here and ml snow 01, and it will be very easy. We just need to type snow, and we will plug in the inputs, snow, put it here. There we have it. Now we have snow here. We can actually duplicate this one and create moss, ml moss 01. And what we will do the same is we will put mossy ground here. Put this one, and then put this one. There you go. Perfect. So now what we will do is to create another function. Let's save everything and then go to materials and go to material layer blend, and we will call it MLB slope mask, something like that. Okay, so we can just click here, and the alpha will be a slope. So let's create a slope mask, just like this, okay? Let's preview this, okay? So this will be the basic mask, and we're gonna just use this, okay? Later on, we will modify it, but for now, we can just use this mask to our advantage. So how can we use this? Will be very simple, okay? We can just go here, press F10 if you don't see the details, double click on this one, and here in my material instance, I can create another layer. This will be my, for example, my snow layer. And this can be my rock too. And this will be my background. Okay, so my snow layer will use a material layer snow, just like this. There you go. Now I will have snow in all my asset. Okay, so then what we can do is just use the slope. Now let's take a look at how this looks like in the world. Now we have snow in our asset. How awesome this is. And it will always work even if you rotate it, like this part doesn't have, because it will work on the angle. Now, the beauty of this is that you can actually change this. For example, you want moss, and it will change automatically, just like this. And you won't need to do anything. And looks like this one, it's having like a little bit of a saturation. Yeah, it has a lot of saturation. Let's just put 1 to the saturation here. We don't really want to have that much. But look at this. Now we have moss here, and you can put snow if you want, okay? So what we will do is to modify this slope material so that it can have even more detail. So if we want to make the slope mask a little bit better, what we can do is to play with the parameters here. So we can go to our MLB slope mask, and you will see that I have different, inputs. I can just create some of those inputs here. For example, I can put a normal map, so I can just put a texture here. Let me grab one of these rocks, for example, like maybe this one, my rock cliff. I can use this texture, and I can just put a right click and texture sample. Okay, and I can just convert to a parameter like normal map or tangent normal. Okay, you can put it like this. Our slope angle, we can put up another parameter for this by holding B, and we will call this a slope angle. By default, we will use the blue channel, because the blue channel is using, the Z-axis. If you take a look at this one, you can see that I have 3 channels here. The blue one, which is, blue, the Z-axis, the X-axis, and the Y-axis. Okay, so we want to project the slope angle only in the Z-axis. Okay, but you can also change it. For example, if you're making trees or something, the snow can accumulate like in the corners of it. It can be very helpful. So let's just have it here. The next one is the fall off power. So press 1, right click, convert to parameter, fall off, and just put 1. And then we can go to the chip contrast here, Control C, Control V, and call it contrast, and put it here. And there you go. We can just apply this. Okay, and let's see how it changed. Okay, so it changed a little bit. It's less harsh than before. So if we take a look at this one, let's go here. And what we will do is to go to the blend asset, and you will see that I have like different parameters I can play with. So for example, I can play with this slope angle. For example, I can go with Y, and it will accumulate in the Y direction. Okay, can go both actually. Okay, but I prefer to go blue. Okay, the next one is the fall off, so I can increase the fall off like 2 or 5 to make it like more smooth, or 0.1 to have it like very harsh. The contrast can put it like 5 or 0.1, put like 0. Okay, I find that by default it's working quite well, so let's just leave it like that. So let's take a look at what other things we can do with this texture. So let's do some vertex painting. What we will do is to close this so we can be a little bit more organized. Okay, perfect. We don't need the bridge anymore. And let's create another material layer blend. And let's call this MLB Vertex Paint, something like that. Okay, so we can do some vertex painting. We will put it here. And it will be very simple. We can just come here and put vertex color. Okay, and this time we're going to create a channel parameter like we did before. Channel parameter. And we will call this vertex channel. And by default, it will be the red one. So let's click here. Click apply. Okay, so now what we can do is to come back here. Sorry, go back here to my material instance and go to my layer parameters, and let's create another layer. And by the way, before we continue, make sure all your textures are like in roughness, otherwise it will be it can have some issues. So what you can do here is to go back to your material. We have a lot of materials here. Let's go to the surface master, and this one, click all of those and change the sample source to shared wrap. Otherwise, it may cause some problems. Okay, so you want to do the same for all of this. Like the material layer 1, we can just leave it like that because we didn't really change it. Let's go to the number 2. We also don't need to change it. We only need to change the master. So let's go to the material layers here, and let's add I don't know, my moss paint, something like this, and we will put something like, let's just put the snow for now. Okay, let's put the snow here just for now. Okay, so by default it will be everything covered by snow, but I will put the vertex paint. Okay, and my vertex paint will be the red channel. Now it will be still red because if I take a look at the mesh paint and take a look at the RGB channels, everything it's white. So what I can do is to paint here and paint everything black. Okay, let's just paint everything black, fill, and apply. Because we are using nanite, we cannot have per instance vertex painting, so we need to apply these changes. So it's gonna take a while. Let's wait a little bit because it's a very heavy mesh. Okay, so it's finished. Now all my vertex painting is black, and that's okay. So what I can do, because nanite doesn't support vertex painting, I can just come back here and disable nanite support, click apply, and with this I will have a lot of triangles to work with. Later on I can turn it on, but for now we can disable it. Okay, so it's finished. Let's go back here, and you notice that my computer is a little bit slow. Let's hide this for now because I don't want to render it. And what we can do here is go to the mesh paint, and now you can see my RGB channels are all black. So what I can do, it's actually paint here what I want to wherever I want to apply my color. I can just paint in red channel, swap the color here to paint on white, and I can just do something like this. And just like that, I can paint vertex color, and I can basically put anything I want, just like this. Okay, and once you do that, you know, this is a very heavy mesh. You can just apply or just leave it like that if you want. But I recommend you to apply, because Nanite doesn't support per instance vertex color. So we will apply this. Continue. Okay, so now that we apply, we can go back to our static mesh and enable Nanite. So let's saving, wait a little bit. Enable Nanite support, apply changes. Okay, so Nanite, it's enabled again. And now we have our mesh with our vertex painting. Okay, so what you can do here is basically open this, and you don't want to put the snow. You can just put the moss if you want. And now you will have the moss here. Just nice. I mean, so you can just paint everywhere you want. And of course, it will apply to all the meshes. And of course, you can change this to use any material you want. Like, for example, maybe this one. Okay, and then it will change again, and you will have different results here. Okay, so this is basically vertex painting, and you can do a bunch of sort of things with it. But what I want to do is to have a more sophisticated vertex paint. So how we can do this vertex painting more interesting? Let's go to our material first, and let's just change this to use the moss again. Okay, so we have something to look at. There you go. So this is our vertex paint, and you can see that it has like a smooth transition here, like something like this, and that's not very natural. So what we will do is to blend this vertex paint with a height texture. So let's go back here to our vertex color, and what we will do is to put the height lerp. There you go. So the height lerp will lerp between two values based on a height map. Okay, so these ones are optional. The transition phase will be this one. Okay, this will be my transition phase. Then the height texture, we will grab one height texture from this one. For example, we can grab the height from this. Let's go here to my vertex paint, put it here, and put my height mask. Okay, and I will just plug. If my memory doesn't betray me, it's on the blue channel. So let's just go back here. Okay, and let's grab the blue channel. There you go. And then the contrast, we will put 1, and then create a contrast node. Okay, just put let's just put 1 by default. Now for the outputs, we can use the alpha. Okay, so the alpha just can come here. Awesome. So just by doing that, let's apply, and let's check how our texture looks like. Okay, so let's go back here to my rock, and let's try to make this a little bit more interesting. We can increase the contrast, for example, like 5 or 1 or 0.1. Okay, and you can put like maybe 1 here, and now your transition will be much harsh. It's much more harsh, or harsher, whatever you want to call it. So 0.5, it will have like a smooth transition. 0 is kind of like what we had before, and just like this, we have like a nicer transition. Okay, so this is basically vertex painting. You can either do it like this, or you can have a height lerp and blend between this height texture. Okay, what you can actually do is to put a simple tiling here, and we can create a scale. Right click, convert parameter is like tiling here. We will put 1, and maybe it will have some effect on it, maybe not, but let's take a look. If we go here, let's go to the tiling, let's go really close, and we can change the tiling to 0.1 or 5. And go, if you put like 50, you will see that it's actually breaking out like 100. Like maybe 40 is like a nice number. Yeah, 40 is a really good number. So if you take a look at this, now your transition is much better. Like if you put like 1, it's like very smooth. You put like 40, it will look much better. Okay, so this is Vertex painting in a nutshell. You can put anything you want. You can like change the roughness or things like that. So just remember that if you want to create some nice Vertex painting, the height Lerp is the node that you want to use with the transition phase with the Vertex channel. So one feature I would really like to add is to be able to paint water puddles. So in order to do this, we need to go to our master surface material, and we need to modify some attributes based on an alpha. Okay, so here what we will do is to uncheck material attributes, and here you will break material attributes just like this. Okay, so just by doing that, we are having the information that we're having here, and we're getting this information to modify it. So in order to make something look like water, we need the color to look darker and also the roughness to be really low. So how can we do that? Well, now that we have the color, we need a Lerp node. With holding L, we can put a linear interpolate, this one, okay? Our loyal linear interpolate, super helpful. So what you want to do is to create the alpha, and which alpha will be, we can create as always a height Lerp. And the height texture can be anyone. So for example, I can grab this one, okay? And I can also put the UVs with my simple tiling we create before. And we can just put it here and put a constant with 1, convert to a parameter and call it, I don't know, water height tiling, something like that, okay? And we can just put a value of 1 and just leave it like that. And we can put it, let's just put the blue one, okay? Then the contrast will be, press 1, right click, and put Puddle contrast, something like that, and put it on 1 by default. Okay, so now we have our alpha, and we also need a transition phase. So let's go to Vertex color, and we need to choose a Vertex color for this. I will choose the green one, okay, and I will grab the alpha and put it here. Okay, now what will we put here? First, we will put the base color here, but also we will multiply this, and let's just put another constant and call it like Puddle color, and we can put something like 0.25 maybe. So we can darken the value of the base color, and this will be here. Then we just need to connect to the base color just like that, okay? And we can also do a make material attributes, okay, if we want it. So let's just put something like this and connect the material attributes to this one, okay? It's like breaking and then make them again. So we have the base color here. Let's make some space to create the roughness. The roughness will be the same. I will Control C and Control V, and the roughness will be on A, and this one will be maybe multiplied by 0.1, okay? And the alpha will be always the same here. Now, it's getting a little bit messy, so I will show you a new node called the name. So if we put here, type name, we will get the add name rewrote declaration node. If we click on this one, we can just call this like Puddle alpha, something like this, okay? And now what we can do is type name again and we will see that you have the Puddle alpha here. So you can just connect here and Control C and Control V and connect here again, and this way we can have a more organized graph. Okay, so now that we have the roughness, we will put it like this. The metallic still the same, specular still the same. Let's just say the normal, we need to change it a little bit. Okay, so what we will do with the normal map is to grab our normal intensity node, what we create before, grab it here, and let's reduce the intensity, put a constant here with 1, right click, convert to parameter, and call it Puddle normal intensity, and we will put something like 0.2 maybe. Okay, let's just put it here. Okay, and just like this, we're gonna copy this, copy the Lerp node, put it here, delete this one. The new normal will be on B, the previous normal will be on A, and the alpha will be my Puddle. Control C, Control V, connect the alpha, and then just put it here. Awesome. So just by doing that, we need to connect the ambient occlusion, and we are good to go. So let's hit apply, and let's see how we can test this out. So first thing, I won't paint on this one because this is a really heavy mesh. So I will create a new, go to modeling tab, go to rectangle, and click here. Click complete, and there you go. Now we have a plane we can test. Okay, so here what I can do is to apply the material here. So let's go to our materials, and we will grab the rock here, and we will duplicate this one, and we will call it mi ground 01. Okay, so we will come here and plug it in. Now we will change some things in the ground. Okay, so you can see that now I have my parameters here. Okay, I want to modify them later, and also what I need to remove is this moss paint. I don't want to use, so let's just remove this one. The snow I also don't want to use. Okay, and that's it. So first things first, we need to change the vertex painting. So we will go to the mesh paint, go to paint, because we are having all my RGB channels are white. It means that the blue channel, the green channel, it's painted. So we need to remove this. So we're going to select all of them, swap them, and then fill. And just by doing that, we have removed the green channel from here. Awesome. So what we can do now is maybe change this one for the moss to have something like this. Okay. So now that what we can do is to paint. What we need to add some resolution first. So what we will do is to go to the modeling tab and then go to remesh, and let's put something like 1000. Should be good enough. Click accept, and that's it. We're good to go. Let's see if our mesh paint works. Let's go to paint. Okay, and let's paint the green channel, and let's click here to swap the color. I'm painting white, and let's just start painting. Okay, so we're having something here. It's kind of working, and it's a little bit dark for my taste. So let's go here to the parameters, go to the details, and let's change the puddle color to 0.25. That's much better. Let's put like 0.35. That's a much better option. Let's see, the contrast can be 0. Much better too. Let's see the water height tiling. If we put something like 10, you will see like we have more variation. And this will be more obvious with the contrast. We can put something like this. But I find like the contrast, putting it like 0 works very well. Okay. So then the puddle normal, let's see if it works with 1. So you can see how the normal actually really works when we put the normal intensity down, it feels more like water. Okay, so we can try 0.5 or 0.3. 0.3 looks like a nice number. Okay, maybe 0.25. Awesome. So what we can do is to basically increase the size and reduce the strength, and we can just paint something like this. And we can shift click to erase some data, something like this. And we can shift click, and basically we can have different puddles here. Okay, let's increase the strength, something like this. Awesome. What you can also go do here is, let's save this, and you can actually sculpt a little bit to have like a ground feeling. Go to modeling tab, go to sculpting mode, and by the way, if you're new to this, we have great tutorials on how to model inside Unreal. Make sure to check it out. You can just move this a little bit like this to have like a little bit of variation here. There you go. Awesome. Let's click accept, and now we have like our little terrain, and we can paint here, and we have our puddle. And from this angle, it looks quite nice. What I feel like it needs also, it's the puddle roughness. And let me see, I think I didn't put it here. Yes, the puddle color should be also the puddle roughness. Okay, make sure to put it right, otherwise we will have trouble. Okay, so now let's check the puddle roughness. If we put like 0, if you put 1, you see that it's very rough. It doesn't feel like water. But if you put the roughness to 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, 0.2 looks like a good number. Okay, let's paint a little bit too. Let's go to paint with green, and with shift select, and just do something like this. Awesome. Let's paint here like the puddle is in this area. With shift click, you will delete. And this is a very useful feature. Adding puddles to your game, it's can really help it to add more variation and more detail. And this is a really simple way to add puddles to your environment. So now that we have our puddle, let's create a function so we can add it anytime we want. So if we go to the content browser, we can just create a new function, go to materials, then go to material function and call it mf puddle. Okay, so double click on this, and we will copy everything here, Control C, Control V here, and let's start modifying this little by little. Okay, so the first thing is the material attributes. We want to replace it by a function input, and the function can also be a material attributes type. So this will be my material. Okay, this won't be optional. You must have the material here. The next one is a simple tiling. So let's just put an input here. Okay, and put it a scalar value. Remove this one, put it here, and the preview value, by holding 1, I create a constant, connect this one, and put something like 1, and then check use preview value as default, because I don't want this to be mandatory. The texture sample, I will just leave it like that. We don't really need to change it. Then the vertex color, it could be the green channel. Let's see if there is an input for a channel here. Not really. So let's just leave it as a green. Okay, we don't really need to change this one. The next one, it's here we will change the puddle contrast. So let's copy this, and let's just put the contrast here, puddle contrast. There you go. Is a preview value a 0? It's okay. Then the alpha stays like this, and then this one we will change all of this for an input. So let's just put the let's just click the arrow here to make it smaller, and we will call it puddle color. Okay, and the preview value will be 0.1, and you don't really need to put it as mandatory. Okay, you do the same here, Control C, Control V, and this one will be puddle roughness, and we will leave it at 0.1. Actually, this will be like 0.35, and this one will be 0.1, and we will put it here, and we can delete this one. And the next one, it will be the puddle intensity for the normal, so we will put puddle normal intensity, and we will put a value of 0.2, just like this one, and we will put the intensity here. Okay, it can be a little bit messy, so let's try to organize a little bit, just like this. Okay, so the next thing is to expose this. Let's call this material with puddle. Okay, description like paints, adds puddles with the green vertex channel, something like that. Okay, and then we come here and we don't need a description. Expose to library, hit apply. Okay, so it will be very simple now. We can just go to our master and we can add the water puddle, MF puddle. So we can just put this one, and you will see that I have the material here. And what I will do is to put the material on top first. So let's go to the puddle and let's select all the inputs, all these inputs here, and let's change the sort priority to 1. Okay, I think I'm not forgetting anyone. Okay, great. So now when we hit apply, we will go here. We have the material here, so we can just put the material, and we can just delete all this. So we can just put the puddle color, put it here. We can put the puddle contrast and put it here too. Okay, we can put the puddle roughness and put it here, and then the normal intensity and put it here. Now there is one input here that I didn't name, and that is the tiling. So let's name this as height tiling. Okay, hit apply. Let's save this, and if this doesn't update, can put a puddle. Now you will see the height tiling here. So we can just wrap with control all of those. Puddle roughness, puddle normal intensity, and the last one will be the height tiling, which is this one. Can just connect this one here, and what we can do is to delete all of those. We don't really need it anymore. Okay, we don't need the alpha here. We don't need anything of this. So what we will do is to basically, hey, I have my materials, let's add some puddles, and then just connect to the material attributes. And just like that, when we hit apply, you will see that everything works just as expected. And everything is much cleaner now. Like we have our material and we have our puddle function where we can just paint puddles. And if we come here, we can go to the mesh paint and come here and start painting here, and we can continue to paint puddles like this. Awesome. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe if you don't want to miss more content like this one. If you're the type of person who wants to learn more and take your game dev skills to the next level, check the links in the description. You can become a member or visit our website to check some awesome premium resources. I am Mao, and I will see you in the next one.